Now, very interestingly, there is one place in the world where all these features of American socialism are in fact present. And that country is, indeed, Venezuela. I just want to tell you a little bit about the Venezuelan story because you'll see how closely, with almost eerie closeness, it parallels the American story. First, when Hugo Chavez came to power in 1998, he campaigned as a third-party man. He was essentially Venezuela's Obama. He said, I'm not a leftist. He was interviewed. He said, I'm not a socialist. No, no, no. He said, if you don't like what I'm doing, throw me out. I'm a moderate. His slogan, I kid you not, was hope and change. Hope and change. Hugo Chavez only started the Socialist Party in Venezuela in 2007, 8 years after he came in. It was a bit of a long-term plan, but the moment he did it, he started labeling everything in Venezuela made in socialism. So you walk into the grocery store, you pick up a carton of milk, made in socialism. Now, the way that Hugo Chavez created what happened in Venezuela, what's happened in Venezuela since, the first thing he did is he embraced identity politics. The first thing he said was, notice, I am not a white man. I am of indigenous stock. So right away, in a country that is very multiracial, that had not been free of racial problems, but racial problems were not in the forefront, Hugo Chavez began to racialize everything. He even began to attack the tradition of Miss Venezuela because he said too many of the models are European. He said, look, we have 2 of our Venezuelan ships that are named after Venezuelan beauty queens. He stripped those names off and he replaced them with 2 black women who supposedly raised the Venezuelan hero Simon Bolivar. What I'm getting at is Hugo Chavez dived right into identity politics. One of the great villains for Hugo Chavez, Columbus. How familiar is that? Go to Scandinavia and start denouncing Columbus. Nobody will know what you're talking about. They don't get it. They have nothing against Columbus. The only regret about Columbus is that he wasn't named Sven. The second thing that Hugo Chavez did, confiscate guns. Hugo Chavez goes, guns are very dangerous. The citizenry does not need guns. They had all kinds of clever commercials to convince people to voluntarily turn in their guns before the guns are forcibly confiscated. And the moment that they were forcibly confiscated, the state began to unleash its force against the population. How? Not just using the military, but using street thugs that are called colectivos. This is Venezuela's answer to Antifa. These street thugs are former criminals, do-nothings, losers. Anybody who signs up with the regime and says, I'm willing to be your henchman, okay, go out and beat people who are protesting against the regime. And the good news, you have guns, which we're going to give you, and they don't. So the confiscation of guns was planned as a means of disarming the population to strengthen the state and its hold on the population. Now, if you turn on the news, you see, oh, you know, Venezuela's starving, everybody's running away to Colombia, nobody has any food to eat. And to a degree, that's true. Debbie has an aunt in Venezuela, she has no food. She goes into the grocery store, it's completely empty except for 300 bottles of ketchup, which tellingly say, made in socialism. It now becomes a kind of stark reminder of what socialism does. But the interesting thing is not everybody in Venezuela is like that. The so-called Chavistas, the people who are in Chavez's regime, are living high on the hog. They get bouquets of flowers delivered to their house. They go eat in the Buddha bar in Caracas. The richest person in the country is the daughter of the now late Hugo Chavez. Net worth of his daughter, according to Forbes, over $2 billion. $2 billion. And all the Venezuelan generals are living high on the hog. And notice that, by the way, this is very familiar here. Look at the way that in this country, people like the Clintons, Al Gore has made $200 million. Now, look, I have never been one to attack people for being rich. I've never attacked Nancy Pelosi for being rich. Her husband is a very successful businessman. That's how she's got a lot of money. God bless her. I'm talking about people who make millions of dollars on a government salary. How do you pull that one off? Look at the Bidens. Look at the Biden family racket. It doesn't just involve Hunter Biden. Follow Biden's own look-alike brother. Look at the way that guy makes money. All these guys make money from politics, and a lot of it. We're talking about 40, 50, 100, $200 million. Now I ask you this. Name one Scandinavian politician who has gone from 0 to $100 million on a government salary. I defy you to do it. No Scandinavian can do it. It's never happened in Scandinavia. They don't do that. But they do it in America, and they do it in Venezuela. So the parallel between Venezuelan and American socialism is actually a little eerie. It's eerily close, which means if we go in that direction, that's where we're going to end up.